Has there been anyone that's significantly helped you along the way? And I don't mean investors, but I mean more like that's inspired you, whether that's a mentor, whether that's a coach, or whether that's, whether it's been family or best mate. Has there been anyone that, you've worked with and supported in terms of that's the personal side of the business?
I wouldn't say any one person. I think it is important to find sources of inspiration, because that's what keeps you going. So in the beginning and even now, I listen to a lot of podcasts from entrepreneurs who had started small and ended with something big. And I think just listening to those was hugely inspirational, because it can feel very daunting when you're starting something new and actually thinking, okay, well, I need to get to there, and how the hell do I do it? And so I think listening to others where they didn't know what they were doing in the beginning and they were building something out of nothing, that was really for me a big source of inspiration. So I've had people supporting me along the way, and family and friends have always been really supportive, but they can't always offer that practical advice about what to do. So I think hearing from other people who have been there and done it, for me has always been kind of the number one.
Yeah, well, for me. That is actually my last question to you about personal and professional development. So you mentioned podcasts, so I'll just skip that question, bring that question forward. And do you recommend any particular podcasts, any particular books that really helped, inspired, or empower you along the way?
Holly Tucker's got a great one, Conversations of Inspiration. Secret Leaders, that's another great
I've not heard of that one, Secret Leaders. Okay.
Yeah. I listened to, in fact, another female entrepreneur, Joanna Jensen. She created a business called Child's Farm. So it's, brilliant story, brilliant hearing, why she started that business. Stephen Bartlett, Diary of Caleño is a really popular one. I'm sure a lot of people have listened to that. So there are definitely quite a few there. There are so many. I'm sure I've only scratched the surface, and I kind of drop in and out of, I go through phases where I listen to loads and then have a break. So
or you'll binge on one podcast and then change to another podcast. I do.
Yeah, exactly. So those are ones I've been listening to recently.
And how would you say you keep abreast of what's happening in the world of business and e-commerce in particular? Are you like an avid reader? You go to trade shows? Like, what is it that you think really helps you stay abreast of everything that's going on? You can be so focused on your own business, but like looking outside, like how do you, that I suppose the wider business environment, how do you keep abreast of that?
Good question. So, I'm signed up to a kind of number of different newsletters, which often have kind of short, sharp bulletins. I'm also part of a WhatsApp group called Baton Hall Social. They give you like really short, sharp updates around, what's going on with Spotify or Amazon or TikTok and some of those channels. And it's just a quick, like bite-sized way to take in information. I kind of tend to keep it to that, newsletters and social, because otherwise it's easy to get overwhelmed and cram your brain with so much information.
Yes, absolutely.
But I find that's a good way to see what's, so just chatting to people in the industry and seeing what they're finding is working.
Networking as well. Yeah, absolutely. Lovely. Okay. So I suppose my next question, and we talked about this before we hit record, was around e-commerce. And you mentioned that e-commerce is a smaller percentage of your overall business revenue. So would you like to see that increase? Just like, or are you more focused now on going into the restaurants, or in terms of because this is about brilliant women in e-commerce? Are you wanting more or less of the e-commerce for your brand?
I mean, I love e-commerce. I love how connected you are with your consumer and customers. I've in the past rung up our customers who are ordering regularly just to find out what are they liking, what can we do better. I think it's really important to stay close to your customer and find out what's working. And e-commerce, particularly if you have your own D2C platform, allows you to do that because you've got their emails and subject to, you've opted in and all the GDPR regulations. But you can talk to them through newsletters and through social. So there's loads of ways to kind of stay super connected. And I think as a business, you shouldn't ever forget that. Ultimately, your business is driven by your customer. And when you get to other channels, like grocers and like on-premise, say pubs, bars and restaurants, you're a step further away. So I've always remembered that, and that's why it's a really important part of the mix for me. But I think with our industry, drinks is a very social product. We're in the business of non-alcoholic drinks, but we really play into that moment, that occasion in the evening where maybe you want to socialize with your friends, you want to go out and have a passion fruit martini cocktail or a pineapple daiquiri, and that's why we lean into channels like the bar and restaurant industry, where they can really deliver that experience. And e-com, I think, delivers a different type of experience. For me, it's about convenience. It's about you're in control of that purchase. You've seen something, you want it next day. We live in a society now where we're able to get things. We're quite impatient. We want things tomorrow. So I think that it plays a different role for me. So it's not that I don't find it important. I think it's an important part of the mix. Yeah, and I guess just a technical point, we ship heavy glass bottles, which can break if you don't wrap them well, and they're heavy to transport. So if we were a product that, there are great D2C brands out there posting, there's one called Neo that are posting small sort of envelope-sized cocktails through the letterbox. Absolutely brilliant. It's lightweight and it's fairly cheap to post. We're not. So that's also something that we have to bear in mind in terms of like our overall business model.
Yeah. So do you think there's an opportunity there at all that you would consider moving into that, the mix? It's the powdered mix, isn't it? Is it I'm not sure how it's actually delivered, but it's in a mixed form, isn't it? A raw mixed form. Is that correct?
So the product is a distilled non-alcoholic spirit. So you'd use it the same way you would use a gin or rum. You would then need to mix it with a tonic or a ginger ale, or use it as a base in a cocktail. So you treat it exactly as you would a spirit, but it just doesn't contain alcohol.
No, I was meaning the other alternative. That was it Neon that you referenced, how it gets posted through the door. Is that something that you might consider as a brand going forward, or are you going to be like the beautiful bottles model of delivery to customers?
Yeah, potentially. I think we as a business, we're very much driven by what the consumer wants, and it's chicken and egg, because sometimes consumers don't know what they want, or that's why entrepreneurs start businesses. I recognize that actually in the world that we live in, where people want to be healthier, actually there is a space for alcohol alternatives. But at the same time, we're constantly learning about the consumer and what they want, convenience factors. So definitely we're always exploring new formats. So, ready to drink concepts. How can we make it super easy to get cocktails into people's hands where they don't have to make it themselves, or if they can't be bothered, or if it's too much effort. So we're always open to new ideas and ways of doing things to kind of get the perfect end product into the hands of the consumer.
So in terms of your current product range, then could you tell me a little bit more about the actual product range, and how would you recommend drinking them?
Yeah, sure. So we've got two variants. We've got light and zesty and dark and spicy, both made and distilled using tropical exotic ingredients. So light and zesty, lead flavors there, Inca berry, pineapple, papaya, and we balance them with some beautiful green botanicals and some citrus and spices. And that is designed to pair with tonic. So I just have it over ice, double measure, topped with my favourite double Dutch tonic in the evenings. That's kind of how I kind of mark the end of the day. And then we've also got dark and spicy, which is a little bit more like a spiced rum alternative. Again, that's completely alcohol free. Key flavours in that: pineapple, coconut. You've got some black cardamom, vanilla and lime. And that goes really well with ginger ale or ginger beer. Also makes a great mojito, and is a great base for other cocktails. And again, just double measure over ice, topped with your favourite ginger ale.